I stared at my father across the Thanksgiving table as he slurred the words that would finally break me. I'm in trouble with some very serious people. The silence that followed felt like a noose tightening around my neck, especially when my mother's eyes locked onto mine with that familiar expectant look. My name is Amelia, and I'm the idiot who secretly bought my family a house. They don't know that, of course. They think some mysterious landlord lets them live there practically rent-free out of the goodness of their heart. Meanwhile, I live in what they lovingly call the shoebox with plumbing, my modest studio apartment that they'd just spent the better part of dinner mocking. It's like living in a closet, my sister Lindsay had giggled earlier, wine glass in hand. I don't know how you do it, Amelia. Don't you want, actual rooms? I'd smiled tightly and cut another piece of turkey. Some of us prefer living within our means. Within your means, my father Geoffrey had scoffed already 3 glasses deep. You make decent money in that marketing job. You could afford better than this shoebox, my mother Sandra had finished for him, patting his hand. We just worry about you, sweetheart. Living like this isn't healthy. The irony of their concern was almost funny. Almost. They had no idea that every month I paid the property tax on their 4-bedroom house, that last summer's roof repair came from my savings, that the mysterious landlord who never raised their rent was actually their eldest daughter, living in a studio apartment so they could maintain their comfortable lifestyle. But now, watching my father's hands shake as he admitted to his latest gambling disaster, I felt something inside me crack. How much? I asked flatly. 18,000, he mumbled, not meeting my eyes. My mother jumped in smoothly. We've been thinking about this as a family. Lindsay's still paying off her student loans. And your father and I are... She gestured vaguely. Well, you know our situation. And I don't have kids or a mortgage, right? I finished for her, the familiar script playing out. So naturally I should be the one to fix this. Your car, Lindsay suggested brightly, as if she'd just solved everyone's problems. That hybrid thing you drive must be worth at least 20 grand. You could sell it and take the bus to work. I looked around the table, at my father's guilty but expectant face, my mother's manipulative concern, my sister's casual entitlement, and suddenly saw the last 15 years with perfect clarity. The inheritance from my grandmother that I'd used to buy this house, thinking it would finally make them proud. The countless times I'd covered their emergencies while they criticised my lifestyle. The way they'd trained me to be their safety net while treating me like their family failure. No, I said quietly. What was that? My mother asked, her voice sharpening. I said no. I stood up, gathering my purse. I'm not selling my car to cover another gambling debt. I'm not doing this anymore. My father's face darkened. After everything we've done for you, everything you've done for me, I laughed, and the sound was ugly even to my own ears. That's rich, Dad, really rich. If you walk out that door, my mother warned, don't expect to be welcome back. I paused at the threshold of my shoebox apartment and looked back at them. Funny thing about doors, Mum, sometimes they close for good reasons. In my car, my precious debt-free car, I sat in the parking lot and let the tears come. Then I pulled out my phone and called the one person who'd been telling me for years to stand up to them. Parker, it's me. Remember how you said you'd help me if I ever wanted to explore my rights as a landlord? Wait, Parker's voice crackled through the speaker. You own the house they live in your name? I wiped my eyes and sat up straighter. Yeah, and I think it's time they learned what real estate karma feels like. As I hung up, my phone buzzed with a text from Lindsay. Hope you're not serious about abandoning the family in our time of need. Dad's really upset. I turned off my phone and started the car. For the first time in 15 years, I felt something other than obligation when I thought about my family. I felt rage, and maybe, just maybe, that rage would finally set me free. 3 days after Thanksgiving, my mother and sister ambushed me at my favourite coffee shop. I spotted them through the window and considered running, but they'd already seen me. Besides, I was tired of running. "We need to talk about Dad's situation," Lindsay announced, sliding into the seat across from me without waiting for an invitation. My mother settled beside her, arranging her face into that concerned expression I knew too well. "There's nothing to talk about," I said, closing my laptop. "I'm not selling my car." "Don't be selfish, Amelia," my mother leaned forward. "These aren't nice people your father owes money to. They've already started calling the house. Then maybe he shouldn't have borrowed from them." Lindsay's eyes narrowed. "Easy for you to say. You don't have any real responsibilities. No kids, no mortgage. Stop saying that." I slammed my hand on the table, making several nearby customers jump. "Having children or a mortgage doesn't make your needs more important than mine. I work hard for what I have." "And we don't?" My mother's voice took on that wounded tone that used to guilt me into submission. "Your father and I have sacrificed everything for this family. The least you could do is help in a crisis." I laughed bitterly. "A crisis? This is Tuesday. Dad's always in crisis. Remember my college fund? The one he gambled away because we were having hard times? Funny how those hard times didn't stop you from taking that cruise the next summer." "That was different," my mother waved dismissively. "We needed that vacation. The stress was affecting your father's health." "The stress was—" I stopped myself, taking a deep breath. "You know what? I'm done. I'm not your ATM anymore." "Fine," Lindsay spat. "Be that way, but don't come crying to us when you're old and alone in that pathetic little apartment." Something snapped inside me. At least my pathetic little apartment is mine, unlike that house you live in. "What's that supposed to mean?" my mother asked sharply. I stood up, gathering my things. "It means I'm done pretending, done enabling, done watching you destroy yourselves and blame everyone else." "We're your family," my mother called after me as I walked away. "Family helps family." I spun around. Family doesn't mock family. Family doesn't guilt and manipulate and steal from family. And family definitely doesn't show up at someone's workplace to pressure them into selling their only reliable asset. The coffee shop had gone quiet. I didn't care. If you want to help Dad so badly, sell your own cars. Sell that boat he bought last summer when he was supposedly broke. Sell the house. I caught myself just in time. "Oh, wait, you can't sell the house because you don't own it." I left them sitting there, faces flushed with anger and embarrassment. My hands were shaking as I got into my car, my precious hybrid that they wanted to sacrifice to the gambling gods. Parker's law office was only 10 minutes away. I didn't call ahead, I just showed up, probably looking like a mess. "I need those landlord papers we talked about," I said when his secretary let me into his office. "All of them." Parker looked up from his desk, concern evident on his face. "Are you sure about this? Once you start the process—" "They showed up at my coffee shop today," I cut him off. "Tried to guilt me into selling my car for Dad's gambling debts. Again, 18,000, right?" He whistled low. "That's a lot of money to throw away." "It's not just about the money anymore." I sank into the chair across from him. "It's about the constant demands, the emotional manipulation, the way they treat me like their personal bailout fund while mocking everything I do." "And you're ready to tell them you own the house?" I nodded slowly. "More than ready. I'm tired of being their secret safety net. Let's see how they handle knowing the truth." Parker pulled out a thick folder. "I'll need you to sign these. And, Amelia?" He waited until I looked up. "This won't be pretty. They're going to fight back hard." "I know." I picked up the pen. "But for once, I'm going to fight back harder." As I signed the papers that would start the eviction process, my phone buzzed with a text from Lindsay. It was a photo of a car dealership with the caption, "Hope you're seriously thinking about doing the right thing." I showed it to Parker. "The right thing," I said quietly, "is exactly what I'm doing." He nodded and started making copies of the signed documents. Sometimes the right thing feels wrong at first, but that doesn't make it any less right. I watched the papers slide through the copier, each one bringing me closer to freedom. Or maybe just a different kind of cage. Either way, there was no turning back now. The house looked different in the moonlight. Standing in the street at midnight, I remembered the day I'd bought it. How proud I'd been, how certain this grand gesture would finally make them see me as worthy. I'd been 25, flush with inheritance money from my grandmother, and desperate for approval. You could get a much nicer place in the suburbs, the realtor had said. But I'd known my family would never leave their neighbourhood, their friends, their familiar haunts. So I'd settled for this older 4-bedroom colonial, thinking they'd at least appreciate the gesture. They hadn't, of course. "It's kind of small," my mother had said when the mysterious landlord offered it to them, "and that wallpaper is hideous." Now, 5 years later, I used my key to let myself in. The house was silent. They were all at my aunt's place for the weekend. I needed to document the property's condition before serving the eviction notice. The moment I stepped inside, the smell hit me, cigarettes and mould. My father had promised to quit smoking indoors. Another lie. I turned on my phone's flashlight and started in the living room. The hardwood floors I'd had refinished were scratched and stained. Cigarette burns dotted the windowsills. In the kitchen, cabinet doors hung loose on their hinges, and the granite countertop had a long crack running through it. "Jesus," I whispered, taking photos. "What have they done to this place?" My phone buzzed. A text from Parker. "Don't forget to document everything, every scratch, every stain. We'll need it." I moved upstairs, each step creaking under my weight. The bathroom was worse than I'd imagined. Black mould crept along the shower walls, and the toilet seemed to be leaking. I'd sent money for repairs last year when my mother complained about plumbing issues. Clearly those funds had gone elsewhere. In my old bedroom, now Lindsay's makeup studio, empty wine bottles littered the floor. The closet door was punched through, probably from one of my father's rages. I remembered those rages from childhood, how he'd put his fist through walls instead of people and call it self-control. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Lindsay. "Hope you're seriously thinking about doing the right thing." I took a deep breath and typed back, "I am, just not the way you think." Back downstairs, I found myself in front of the dining room wall where we used to mark our heights as kids. The marks were still there, hidden behind a cheap painting. I traced my final measurement, 17 years old, the summer before Dad gambled away my college fund. "You'll understand when you're older," my mother had said then. "Family comes first." A car door slammed outside. Headlights swept across the windows. They were home early. I ducked into the kitchen just as the front door opened. My father's voice carried through the house. "I'm telling you, Sandra, we'll figure something out. Amelia will come around. She always does." "She seemed different this time," my mother replied. "More resistant." "Then we'll try harder," Lindsay chimed in. "Make her feel guilty. You know how she gets about family loyalty." I pressed myself against the wall, heart pounding. They moved into the living room, unaware of my presence. "Maybe we could sell some of her grandmother's jewellery," my mother suggested. "The pieces she left in her old room." My blood ran cold. Those pieces weren't left behind. They'd been stolen from my apartment during a wellness check last year when I hadn't answered my phone for 2 days. "Good idea," my father said. "She probably won't even notice they're gone, too busy working herself to death in that shoebox." I'd heard enough. Carefully, silently, I slipped out the back door. In my car, parked around the corner, I reviewed the photos I'd taken. Each one felt like another nail in the coffin of my family relationships. Parker answered on the first ring. "How bad is it?" "Worse than we thought. They're home now, planning to sell my grandmother's jewellery to cover the debt. Jewellery they stole from me." "That's theft," he said firmly. "We can add it to the complaint. They were just talking about how to manipulate me, using family loyalty against me. Again. Are you having second thoughts? I looked at the house, my house, with its sagging gutters and cigarette-stained curtains. No more second thoughts, no more chances. Send the eviction notice. It goes out tomorrow morning, Parker said. Are you ready for their reaction? No, I admitted, but I'm even less ready for another decade of this. As if on cue, my phone lit up with another text from Lindsay. This time it was a photo of a car dealership's website with a trade-in value calculator prominently displayed. I turned off my phone, started my car, and drove away from the house I'd bought with such hope 5 years ago. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, they'd learn what it meant to take advantage of the wrong person for too long. Tomorrow, they'd learn about karma. The first call came at 8:47 a.m. I watched my mother's name flash across my phone screen as I sat in Parker's office, waiting for confirmation that the eviction notice had been delivered. They should have received it by now, Parker said, checking his computer. Certified mail, signature required. My phone buzzed again. Lindsay this time, then my father, then my mother again. You don't have to answer, Parker reminded me. The text started rolling in. Mum, call me immediately. Lindsay. WTF is this? Is this some kind of joke? Dad. You ungrateful little... Then came the voicemails. I put the first one on speaker. Amelia, this is your mother. There's been some kind of mistake. We just received legal papers saying you're our landlord, that you own the house. Call me back right now. The second voicemail was less composed. How dare you? My father's voice boomed. How dare you go behind our backs like this? After everything we've done for you, you think you can just throw your own family out on the street. Notice how they're not denying they owe you money, Parker observed, taking notes, or addressing the property damage. My phone lit up with a FaceTime request from Lindsay. Against my better judgment, I accepted. Are you out of your mind? Her face filled the screen, mascara already running. You've owned the house this whole time, while we've been worried sick about you living in that dump? That dump is what allowed me to pay for your roof repairs, I replied calmly, and your property taxes, and your utilities. We're your family, she shrieked. You don't evict family. Family doesn't steal jewellery, I shot back, or mock where I live while living rent-free in my house. That's different. We thought... You thought what? That some mysterious benefactor was just letting you live there out of kindness, that the repairs magically paid for themselves. Your sister's right, my mother's voice cut in as she grabbed the phone from Lindsay. This isn't how family treats family. What will people think? They'll think you raised a daughter smart enough to know when she's being used. My mother's face hardened. If you do this, there's no coming back. You'll never be welcome in this family again. Funny, I said, feeling strangely calm. That's exactly what you said at Thanksgiving and last Christmas. And every time I've said no to you for the past decade. You have until 5 o'clock to withdraw this notice, my father bellowed from somewhere off screen. Or I swear to God, I ended the call. Well, Parker said after a moment, that went about as expected. My phone kept buzzing with messages. I read them aloud. You'll regret this. Hope you can live with yourself. Nobody will ever love you after this. Wow, they're really hitting all the greatest hits. We should document these threats, Parker said, reaching for his legal pad, in case... A loud bang interrupted him. Through his office window, I saw my father in the parking lot, getting out of his car. Stay here, Parker said, standing up. I'll handle this. But I was already moving toward the door. 5 years of secrets, a lifetime of manipulation. I was done hiding. My father's face was purple with rage as he stormed toward the building. You think you can hide behind lawyers? Your own father. Sir, Parker called out, this is private property. I'll have to ask you to leave. Stay out of this, my father roared. This is between me and my ungrateful daughter. No, I said, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. This is between a landlord and her tenants, who haven't paid rent in 5 years, who've destroyed property, who've stolen personal items. We gave you life, and I gave you a house. I gave you everything I had, over and over, and it was never enough. Security was approaching now. My father jabbed a finger at me. You think karma won't find you. You think you can do this to your own blood. Karma, I laughed. Karma is exactly what's happening right now. As security escorted him away, he screamed through the parking lot. You'll end up alone. You hear me? Alone. Back in Parker's office, I collapsed into a chair. My phone showed 37 missed calls and over 50 texts. We should file for a restraining order, Parker said quietly. I nodded, numb. Do it. Do whatever we need to do. Are you okay? I looked at my phone as another message from Lindsay popped up. Hope you're happy destroying this family. No, I said honestly, but I will be. Outside, I could still hear my father's car peeling out of the parking lot. The sound felt like punctuation on the end of a very long sentence. One I'd been reading my whole life without understanding until now. The letter arrived 3 days after the eviction notice, hand-delivered to my apartment's mailbox. The return address was from Valentina, my family's next-door neighbour for the past 20 years. I'd always liked her, even though my mother called her nosy. Dear Amelia, the letter began, I've held this secret for 5 years, watching you sacrifice everything for people who never deserved it. I was there the day you signed the papers for the house. I saw your smile, your hope, and I've seen everything since. My hands trembled as I read on. I have security cameras. They've captured years of incidents. Your father's rages, your mother's verbal abuse when you visit, your sister's endless parties that keep the neighbourhood awake. I've saved it all, thinking someday you might need proof. I called Parker immediately. An hour later, I sat in Valentina's immaculate living room, watching video clips on her tablet. The footage was clear, damning. There was my father punching the garage door after I'd refused to co-sign a loan last year. My mother standing in the driveway, screaming at me for missing a family dinner because of work. Lindsay sneaking my grandmother's jewellery box out of my apartment during that wellness check. I should have shown you sooner, Valentina said, pouring tea. But it wasn't my place. Why now? I asked. She set down her cup. Because yesterday I heard your father planning something. He was on the phone talking about teaching you a lesson, about making you understand the consequences of your actions. My stomach churned. Did he say what kind of consequences? No, but I've seen that look before. When he gambled away your college fund. The memory hit me like a slap. I'd been 17, heading to my dream school with a partial scholarship. Then suddenly the money was gone. Hard times, my mother had said, patting my hand. We'll figure something out. 2 months later, they'd gone on a cruise. To heal from the stress, they'd said. I had to get student loans, I said quietly. Work 2 jobs through college. They never apologised, never even admitted what happened. I remember, Valentina nodded. Just like I remember when you bought this house. You were so proud, thinking it would finally make them respect you. Instead, they complained about the wallpaper, while you lived in that tiny apartment, paying their bills. She touched my hand. You've always been the adult here, Amelia. It's time they dealt with reality. My phone buzzed. Another text from Lindsay. Mum's crying herself sick. Hope you're happy. I showed it to Valentina. Manipulation, she said firmly. Watch this. She pulled up footage from just an hour ago. My mother in her front yard, laughing with neighbours. No tears in sight. They're planning something, Valentina warned. Your father's been making calls all morning. Your mother's been visiting neighbours, telling them you're mentally unstable. Classic, I muttered. When guilt doesn't work, they try to discredit me. I have something else you should see. She pulled up a final video. It showed my father and mother in their driveway late last night, arguing. We'll sue her, my father was saying. Claim elder abuse. She manipulated us, took advantage. No judge will side with a daughter who throws her parents out. My mother nodded. And once we win, we'll sell the house ourselves. That'll teach her about family loyalty. I felt sick. They're going to sue me. They can try, Valentina said, ejecting a USB drive from her tablet. But with this evidence, they won't get far. She handed me the drive. 5 years of proof. Every incident, every threat, every lie. Use it. My phone rang. Parker. Your family just filed a legal complaint, he said without preamble. They're claiming elder abuse and fraud. They want the house. I looked at the USB drive in my hand. Perfect timing. I have something you need to see. After I hung up, Valentina squeezed my shoulder. You're doing the right thing. Sometimes the hardest choices are the most necessary ones. Through her window I could see my mother in their driveway, probably planning her next move. She looked up, caught my eye, and gave me that familiar disappointed headshake. For the first time, it didn't make me feel guilty. It made me angry. Thank you, I told Valentina, for seeing what I couldn't, for keeping these records. Sometimes, she said, walking me to the door, we need someone else to validate what we already know in our hearts. As I left clutching the USB drive, my phone lit up with a final text from my father. You've started a war you can't win. I smiled grimly. He had no idea what kind of ammunition I was holding. For once, I wasn't walking into battle unarmed. For once, I had proof. And proof, unlike family loyalty, doesn't lie. The courthouse hallway felt colder than it should have in June. I sat on a hard wooden bench, watching my family huddle with their lawyer at the other end of the corridor. They'd dressed for sympathy. My father in an ill-fitting suit that made him look older, my mother in conservative pastels, Lindsay in a demure dress I'd never seen before. Ready? Parker asked, appearing with his laptop and a stack of files. They're going to lie, I said. They're really good at it. That's why we have evidence. He patted the files. Truth doesn't need rehearsal. The judge was a stern-faced woman in her 60s who didn't smile when we entered. My family's lawyer went first, painting a tragic picture of manipulative daughter taking advantage of trusting parents. Miss Amelia, their lawyer said, purchased this house secretly, Your Honour, then used it to control her vulnerable family members. I watched my mother dab at dry eyes with a tissue. And now, he continued, she's attempting to render her own parents homeless out of spite. Parker stood. Your Honour, we have documentation proving my client has paid every expense for this property for 5 years, while the defendants lived there virtually free. He started playing Valentina's videos. My father's face turned purple as his recorded voice filled the courtroom. Once we win, we'll sell the house ourselves. Objection, their lawyer called. These recordings were made without consent. In public spaces, Parker countered, by a neighbour concerned about criminal activity. The judge let the videos continue. With each clip, my family's carefully constructed narrative crumbled. The facade of vulnerable parents gave way to scenes of manipulation and threats. Then came the financial records. Bank statements showing Miss Amelia paid $23,000 in property taxes, Parker listed. Roof repairs totaling $15,000, utility payments averaging $400 monthly. Meanwhile, the defendants... My mother interrupted, standing suddenly. We're her parents. Everything she has because of us. Mrs. Francis, the judge warned, please sit down. You don't understand, my mother continued, her voice rising. She owes us, after everything we've sacrificed. Like my college fund. I spoke up for the first time. The one Dad gambled away? The judge leaned forward. Is this true? It was a difficult time, my father muttered. Yet you took a cruise that summer, Parker said, producing more records. Charged to my client's first credit card, which you opened in her name when she was 18. Lindsay jumped up next. This isn't fair. She's twisting everything. She's always been jealous of me, always trying to make our parents look bad. Your Honour, Parker interrupted smoothly, we have evidence of Ms. Lindsay stealing valuable jewellery from my client during a fraudulent wellness check. The security footage played. Lindsay, clearly visible, pocketing my grandmother's jewellery box while my mother kept watch. That's not... I was just borrowing, Lindsay stammered. Enough, the judge cut in. She looked at my family with undisguised disgust. I've seen more than sufficient evidence of manipulation, theft, and attempted fraud. The eviction stands. You can't do this, my father shouted. She's our daughter. Being a parent doesn't grant you ownership of your child, the judge replied coldly. The defendants have 30 days to vacate the property or begin paying market rate rent immediately. Outside the courtroom, my mother grabbed my arm. You've destroyed this family, she hissed. I hope you're happy. I gently removed her hand. No, Mom. You destroyed this family, one manipulation at a time. Where are we supposed to go? Lindsay demanded, mascara running. Maybe sell that boat Dad bought last summer, I suggested. Or the jewellery you stole from me. I'm sure that'll cover a security deposit somewhere. My father stepped forward, his face dark with rage. This isn't over. Actually it is, Parker intervened. Any further harassment will result in additional legal action. I suggest you use your energy to find new housing instead. We watched them storm off, my mother already on her phone, probably calling relatives to spread her version of events. 30 days, I whispered. They might try to drag it out, Parker warned. Damage the property more. They can't hurt me anymore, I realised. Not really. My phone buzzed. A text from Valentina. Saw them leave the courthouse. How did it go? I typed back. We won. Thank you for everything. Justice doesn't always feel good, Parker said gently, but that doesn't make it wrong. I looked at the courthouse steps where my family had stood moments ago, already planning their next move, their next manipulation, their next attempt to make me the villain in their story. But for the first time in my life, their story didn't matter. I had my own story now, backed by evidence, validated by law, and in 30 days, I'd have my house back too. Sometimes winning feels like losing, but maybe that's how you know you're finally breaking free. Moving day arrived with the subtlety of a hurricane. I stood in the driveway watching the movers load what remained of my family's belongings into their trucks. They'd waited until the last possible hour of the last possible day, hoping I'd break. I hadn't. This is everything you're taking, one of the movers asked my father, gesturing at the pile of furniture on the lawn. The rest stays, he growled, glaring at me. It belongs to the house. Actually, I said quietly, the furniture was purchased with my money too, but keep what you want. I'm having it all replaced anyway. My mother emerged from the house, clutching her purse like a shield. I suppose you're happy now, she said, her voice trembling, watching your family become homeless. You're not homeless, Mum. Aunt Susan offered you her guest house months ago. That's not the point. Then what is the point? I asked, genuinely curious. That I should keep supporting your lifestyle while you mock mine? Keep paying your bills while you steal from me? Lindsay stormed out next, mascara already running. I can't believe you're really going through with this. What kind of person throws their own family out? The kind who's finally tired of being used. Used? My father stepped forward. We gave you everything. No, I corrected him. Grandmother gave me everything, and I used it to buy this house thinking it would make you proud. Instead, you treated it like you've treated me my whole life. Something to use up and throw away. The locksmith arrived then, right on schedule. He nodded to me and headed for the front door. What's he doing? My mother demanded. Changing the locks. Standard procedure for an eviction. You can't... I can. I am. It's done. My father moved toward me, fists clenched. You little... Dad, I cut him off, holding up my phone. Valentina's cameras are still running. Think carefully about your next move. He stopped, face purple with rage. Behind him, the movers continued loading boxes, pretending not to notice the family drama unfolding. "Where did we go wrong with you?" my mother whispered. "How did you become so cold?" "I learned from the best," I replied. "Remember when Dad gambled away my college fund? You told me to understand, to forgive, to put family first. Well, I'm finally putting family first, just not the way you taught me." The locksmith emerged. "All done, Mum. Here are your new keys." I took them, feeling their weight in my palm. 5 years of secrets, of silent sacrifice, of hoping they'd somehow change, all ending with these small pieces of metal. "This is your last chance," Lindsay said, trying for threatening, but landing on desperate. Once you leave, I can finally start healing." I turned to the movers. "How much longer?" 20 minutes, tops." My mother started crying then, real tears this time. Not the performative ones from court, but genuine sobs that shook her shoulders. For a moment, I felt that old, familiar pull, the need to comfort her, to fix everything. But I stayed where I was. "You'll end up alone," she choked out. "No one will ever love you after this." "That's better than being used by people who claim to love me." My father grabbed the last of their bags. "Come on," he muttered to my mother and sister. "She's made her choice." "No," I corrected him. "You made this choice. Every time you took advantage. Every time you mocked where I lived while living in my house. Every time you chose gambling over family. This isn't my choice. It's your consequence." They piled into their cars, my father in his, my mother and Lindsay in hers. The movers finished loading the truck. The house stood empty behind me, waiting. Lindsay rolled down her window. "I hope you can live with yourself." "I finally can," I replied. "That's the whole point." I watched them drive away, my mother's car first, then my father's, then the moving truck. The street felt eerily quiet in their wake. I turned to face the house, my house, and felt something rise in my chest. Not quite happiness, not quite sadness, something in between. My phone buzzed. A text from Parker. "All done?" "Yes," I typed back. "They're gone." "How do you feel?" I looked at the empty driveway where my family's cars had sat for 5 years, at the lawn they'd never mowed, at the gutters they'd let clog, at all the small signs of neglect that mirrored how they'd treated my love for them. I feel... I paused, searching for the right word. Free. As I walked up to my front door with my new keys, I wasn't shaking from fear anymore. I was shaking from adrenaline, from possibility, from the sudden, startling realization that sometimes the hardest goodbyes are the ones that save us. The sound of a drill echoed through the empty house as I installed new curtain rods in the living room. Sunlight streamed through the windows, highlighting patches of fresh paint and new hardwood flooring. The house smelled different now, like lemon cleaner and possibility. A knock at the door made me pause. Through the window I saw Valentina holding a teapot. "Thought you might need a break," she called out. I let her in, and we settled on the floor since I hadn't bought furniture yet. She poured tea into paper cups while examining my renovation progress. "The place looks brighter already," she said. "Amazing what a little love can do." "And a lot of contractors," I added, gesturing to the fresh drywall where my father's fist holes used to be. "Have you heard from them?" I nodded. "Mom's been calling relatives, telling them I'm having a mental breakdown. Dad's apparently telling everyone I forged the deed. Lindsay just posts passive-aggressive quotes on social media about toxic people who pretend to be victims." "And how are you really?" I considered the question while sipping my tea. "Lighter, like I've set down something heavy I didn't even know I was carrying." My phone buzzed. Another blocked number. I'd been getting lots of those lately. "Still not answering unknown calls?" "Parker says not to. We have the restraining order, but..." I shrugged. "Better safe than sorry." Valentina nodded toward the window. "They drove by again this morning. Your mother and sister, just watching the house." I know, but they can't hurt me anymore. I stood up, walking to the wall where our height measurements used to be. See this? I'm painting over it today. New memories, new start. Speaking of new starts, Valentina pulled an envelope from her purse. I have something for you. Inside was a photo. Me at 17 standing in front of this very house the day my grandmother died. I was smiling, unaware that my college fund would disappear the next week. I found it while organising old albums, Valentina said. Look how hopeful you were. That hope wasn't wrong, Amelia. It was just aimed at the wrong people. My phone buzzed again. This time a text from Parker. Judge denied their appeal. It's really over. I showed Valentina the message. Good, she said firmly. Now you can focus on healing. Everyone keeps asking if I'm okay, I admitted, like they expect me to break down or regret everything. And do you regret it? I looked around the room, at the fresh paint covering years of cigarette stains, at the clean floors replacing their neglect, at the sunshine streaming through windows they'd always kept curtained. No, I said finally. I regret not doing it sooner. Valentina squeezed my hand. That's not regret, dear. That's wisdom. Another knock at the door made us both turn. Through the window I saw a delivery truck. Perfect timing, I said, getting up. My new couch is here. As the deliveryman brought in the furniture, I caught a glimpse of my mother's car driving slowly past. Our eyes met through the window. She raised her hand, not waving, more like reaching. For a moment I felt that old familiar pull. Then I turned away and helped the deliveryman position my new couch. My choice, my style, my life. Where do you want these throw pillows? One asked. Actually, I smiled, I think they'll look better in my apartment. Valentina raised an eyebrow. I'm keeping this house, I explained, but I'm not moving in. I'm going to rent it out to people who will actually appreciate it, who will pay their rent and respect the property. And your apartment? Turns out I like my shoebox with plumbing. It's mine. Every square foot of it is something I chose for myself. The deliveryman left and Valentina helped me arrange the pillows on the couch. Through the window I could see my mother's car was gone. You know what the strangest part is? I said, stepping back to admire our work. Everyone talks about karma like it's this big, dramatic thing, but sometimes it's just this. Just quietly choosing yourself, setting boundaries, walking away. That's the best kind of karma, Valentina replied, the kind you create for yourself. My phone buzzed one last time. Lindsay, I hope you're happy in your empty house. I looked around at the fresh paint, the new furniture, the sunlight streaming in, at all the space that was finally truly mine, not empty, just clean, ready for whatever came next. I am, I whispered, and deleted her number. Outside, the afternoon sun painted the walls gold. The drill lay forgotten by the window, the curtain rod half installed. But that was okay. I had time now. Time to build something new. Something that wasn't weighted down by guilt or obligation or misplaced loyalty. Something that was, finally and completely, mine.